No Chill Sports is an unapologetic, high-energy sports show where opinions fly fast and facts hit hard. The views and opinions expressed on this program are solely those of the hosts and guests, and do not necessarily reflect those of any affiliated networks, sponsors, or partners. Content may include passionate debates, bold predictions, and unfiltered takes that some viewers may find intense or controversial. Listener discretion is advised. If you're looking for chill, this ain't the place.
Hey, welcome back to another hot episode of the Rant with Pough Ant, where the mics stay hot, the takes are bold, and the truth is unfiltered. No scripts, just two voices bringing the heat with heart, real, raw, and unapologetically honest. Hope y'all doing well out there tonight. Ant can't be with us right now, but we do have a special guest to come up. We're gonna talk about these sports injuries. We had another gruesome injury Sunday night in seeing Tyrese Halliburton go down, and want to bring on someone we had on when we were the Golden Boot, my cousin, Dr. Chris Pough. He's a physical therapist and occupational therapist, and we're gonna talk about these sports injuries. But first, before we get to that, y'all know what we gotta do. Gotta give a shout out to our sponsors over at Dubby. Dubby is a powdered energy drink aimed at gamers and individuals seeking focus and energy. It's known for its clean ingredients, no jitters, and various flavors. Dubby is also available in the hydration formula for those needing electrolytes. Dubby achieves its smooth, effective focus with a high-end tasting experience while using no sugars, no fillers, no artificial colors, or dyes. Try Dubby today by scanning the QR code you see on the screen, or visit us on the web at bit.ly/NoChillDubby. Dubby, your taste buds' favorite energy drink. Like I said, we got a special guest coming in with us. Want to welcome to, for the first time, No Chill Sports and the Rant with Pough Ant, Dr. Chris Pough. Cuz, how you doing tonight?
Doing well, cuz. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. There we go. If people give you a nice round of applause. Man, I want to bring you on. I know last time we had you on, we had all the situation with Tua, all the concussions and stuff. And I want to bring you on because we seem like we're seeing, I'm going to say, an epidemic in NBA basketball. Speaking of, the draft is going on tonight. We all know, worst kept secret, Cooper Flag is going to be the number one pick. Number two behind him, everybody thinks it's going to be Dylan Harper. We're going to see, but we'll keep up with the draft as well while we talk about this. But like I said, man, I did want to talk about the spike in injuries that have gone on in sports. We saw before the season, we even got into the playoffs, we had, if I'm not mistaken, 4 or 5 injuries. James Wiseman with the Pacers, Isaiah Jackson with the Pacers, DeJounte Murray with the Pelicans, Drew Smith with the Heat. They all went down with a ruptured Achilles during the season. And in the playoffs, we saw Dame Lillard go down. We saw Jason Tatum go down. And then just the other night, we saw Tyrese Halliburton. I've got a theory of why this is happening, but your thoughts on all these ruptured Achilles that we've seen as of late?
Because, honestly, a lot of it, you have to kind of look at whether is the Achilles tendon. So basically, it is where your calf muscles meet and attach down to your heel bone, in the basic terms. So one of the things you have to consider, that's a probably really thick tendon, considered the thickest tendon in the body. And it takes a lot to be able to rupture your Achilles tendon. Um, typically, the things that you see and causes of it are, of course, that push off, that quick acceleration or deceleration. You see it a lot, trying to jump, first step injuries. A big piece of it is overuse. That tendon
Mhm.
just gets wear and tear over time, and you get these little micro tears in it, and then eventually you do that straw that broke the camel's back. You take that stuff and pop, and you basically get that ruptured Achilles tendon. Um, to be honest with you, it, with all these guys being in top shape and being professional athletes, it's kind of crazy to see this increase in it, the ruptures. But a lot of it, honestly, is some type of typically faulty mechanics of their ankle, foot, or their knee, or even at the hip joint, that's potentially causing additional wear on the Achilles tendon. You know, we talked about the overuse. Think about these guys are professional athletes. They take great care of their bodies. They're, working out consistently. They're training. How much are they changing up their training? Or they're doing some of the
Mhm.
same things as far as the different, of course, they're playing their sport, they got to get in game shape. But what are they doing offset? They're doing the weightlifting as well. But, what do their workouts consist of? Or they're taking some of the load off the joint. Or they're, doing some pool workouts where you have the buoyancy of the water to help take some of the pressure off the lower body, or things of that nature. So you really have to kind of see, if you look at it, a lot of the guys that you mentioned, Tatum, Tyrese Halliburton, Damian Lillard, what happened last year in 2024? The Olympics.
Olympics. Mhm.
They had the Olympics. So you think about the training you have to get ready for your season. Then outside of that, they're competing again at a very high level against people across the world. That unfortunately can take a toll as well. Just we think about how important it is to train and to basically keep yourself in tip top shape. People don't realize that rest is a very vital aspect of recovery and keeping your body in tip top shape. A lot of universities and different programs are adopting wearable technology to basically track the rest of the athletes, which I think is honestly game changing. Because people don't realize. Think about how much focus you lose when you're tired. How much you lose in your mechanics. That's why it's so important. Some of the best players who operate during crunch time, they have some of the best endurance
Mhm.
because they're still able to focus and be able to have the eye hand coordination and make the split decisions in a millisecond, because they've built that repetition up with that training. But just like over time, overuse, not having sufficient rest to the area can definitely lead to that unfortunately serious injury. So, you have to look at a lot of things, but like I said, even looking at back from a biomechanical standpoint, with just looking at it as a physical there, it had to be some form of faulty mechanics with the ankle foot. You probably had some going on where a certain joint wasn't moving too much and another joint was moving, well, a certain joint was not moving enough and another joint was moving too much, causing additional stress. Think about foot orthotics. These guys are advertising these shoes for these different companies. Do they have the proper inserts in these shoes to really truly put their joints in the best position when they're playing these sports? That we don't know. I can't answer that, but I think that's honestly a lot of it that's actually contributing, because these guys are young. They're healthy, but again, they've been playing basketball a while.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, NBA, people are going to the league, what, 19 years old? Think about how
Right.
much AAU basketball before then that they've
Mhm.
played.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
a lot.
And what you just said kind of led to my theory. We've had conversations with, when I say we, me, myself, and Ant have had conversations with a guy that you may know named Benny Latino. He's a scout for a lot of the guys he scouts to have play multiple sports. And this is one of the reasons. One, multiple sports puts it allows different muscles to rest, but it also works on additional sets of muscles. You mentioned these guys not taking a rest. It led me to think about one of the biggest spikes in injuries that we know of recently prior to now was 2020 after COVID, because those guys went into the bubble. It was late. The season was, later in the season. They played in the bubble. Came out of the bubble. A lot of them who made playoff runs the following year, they had issues, got hurt. One of the biggest was Jamal Murray. His ACL that year. And so, we look at things like that. So I guess that leads to, like I said, that overworked and what you mentioned. What are some preventative measures? And I know you mentioned rest, but is rest the only thing, or what else can we look, or let me ask this, because I know, like you said, it could be, since there was some mechanical issue. Is this like a just a matter of time for some people, or is this actually, rest or other things could have stopped this from happening?
Unfortunate part is it's kind of hard to answer if it could have been prevented. The best way to set yourself up for prevention is definitely rest is part of it, but rest is not the end all be all. It's honestly the diversification of your trainer. So changing your routine up, doing different type of things to continue to work on your endurance, work on your strength, work on your speed, but also continue to change up different muscle groups, like you stated. Like, so many people talk about how things are so specialized for kids now with playing sports. Like, you have these kids who they say are a superstar at this one sport, and they keep them in just that sport throughout. And those kids end up unfortunately injuring themselves earlier. They don't get to train or use the other muscle groups. It's funny, I think, man, you chit chatted about it, but LeBron James was talking about on something I saw how, growing up, and Cam Newton actually too on his podcast was talking about when they prepare for sports growing up, they played different sports. So, to work on their speed, they ran track, and worked
Yeah.
on equipment. They played baseball to work on the hand coordination. They, did different things. They played soccer to work on footwork. They played different sports, which overall helps, in my opinion, for a more well-rounded individual. But the other piece that you have to look at that plays a huge part with that is you have individuals who are getting to give certain muscle groups a rest break in between. And it's just it translates as them going to professional athletes. You gotta continue to work with your trainers, continue to kind of know your body. Unfortunately, Tyrese Halliburton, I can't blame the man. He's going after a championship. He trained that same calf,
Yeah.
early in the series, almost in the same spot. But at the same time, he's gonna do his best to be prepped and be what he needs to be because he's going for a championship. He doesn't know when he'll get another opportunity to do that. So, I can't fault the man for going after that, but you do have to recognize the signs and symptoms of your body that's telling you, hey, this ain't feeling right, something's going on. And you definitely need to work with a bunch of high level professionals to take good care of your body. I mean, individuals who've been able to create a lot of longevity in their career spend a ton of money on their bodies. Look at LeBron James. Look at Derrick Henry. Look how big and physical this young man is, and the what he's consistently done over years. But he puts in the work. He takes amazing care of his body, the shape he's in, but he also changes his training up. He works with some of the best, from physical therapists to, nutritionists to all kinds of things. So it's truly important, and I mean, if you look at it, has either one of these individuals had catastrophic injuries? I can't think of none at the moment, with like a LeBron or even, Derrick Henry. But at the same time, it's unfortunate that you have to kind of recognize your body and you got to have the ability to do different training techniques and things to take some of that additional stress and load off those areas.
Yeah. So I want to look back, and you'll understand when I ask the question why I'm looking back at some of these guys. You had a Kobe Bryant who was a little bit older, uh, rupture his Achilles. You had DeMarcus Cousins, uh, KD, Steph. No, I'm sorry, not Steph. Clay. I'm sorry,
Mhm.
Clay. Uh, all these individuals ruptured their Achilles, but they all kind of looked a little bit different when they returned. Just and you know, we've had this conversation before. It really depends on the kind of player they were. You know, were they a guy that relied more on athleticism? You know, so on and so forth. Uh, but I want to ask this: what is something we can expect from these guys, or difficulties we can expect when they return? Is this I mean, because we know Achilles used to be a career ender, and now it's just a years, well, 6 months to a year setback, depending on the person and the severity. So, what can we expect on some of these guys?
Well, a lot of you have to think about just the mental aspect. What I mean by that is you're gonna have two things happen. One, they're not. It's gonna take a minute for them to build that confidence in that joint or in that thing or in their Achilles to feel
Mhm.
comfortable with being able to take that explosive first step. So that's a mental barrier that they're gonna have to work through. In general, it's amazing how connected psychology is in sports and into injuries and rehabilitation. So that's one thing that they're gonna have to work through. The other piece of that, um, you might not have the same type of explosiveness,
Mhm.
to be able to do some of the things that you're doing. But I think also with the right players, it's gonna actually expand their games a little bit more because they're gonna be able to think through the game a little bit more and also figure out how to pick their spots. You know, Again, referencing basketball, I was looking at and listening to Carmelo Anthony speak on his podcast when he was saying how he went and spent time with Michael Jordan when he first got in the league. And Michael Jordan basically showed him the art of scoring and how to literally create a pace where he knew if he wanted to average this amount of points in the game, what he needed to produce each quarter to get that.
Mm.
And what did that look like? Okay, that was a 3-pointer and two elbow jumpers and a couple free throws, and though just think about how high level. I mean, you see it online now. Carmelo still giving people bucket. I honestly think the man can still play in the league, but it's a lot of mental too. He's able to think the game through and actually is able to see the court and see, you know, where's his spot. And I think just for those individuals who go through these injuries, they're gonna learn to think the game a lot more too, because they don't have that. I won't say they don't have the athleticism that they're so relied on and they're so used to doing is in question a little bit because again, they have to get over the mental barrier of, hey, could this happen again? Or, is my first step as explosive as it was and those types of things. I think they're gonna get there, but to be 100%, it's definitely gonna take time, but also the mental barrier that they have to break past that. So, it's definitely each person's gonna be different. I mean, if you look at it, like you said, look different. Kobe, think about how well
Mm.
Kobe knew the game. That everybody talks about just his knowledge of the game, phenomenal. And he still was a prolific scorer after his injury, you know. So and KD, another person, but their games look totally different too. Different types of
Right.
players. So
Yeah. Um, as a physical therapist, we're gonna play high. I'm playing hypothetical. You're a physical therapist. One of your patients has ruptured their Achilles. They're a high school basketball player on the verge of going to college. How are you rehabbing that player?
so if I should gonna start off on the approach that was taken or who the surgeon was, because a lot of surgeons do have particular protocols that they want the individual to kind of stay within a certain parameters. But I will say a skilled therapist will know the protocol, but also know where they can increase and decrease in certain areas. Like some areas you might be a little bit ahead of schedule. Some areas you may have to kind of pull
Mm.
back a little bit, just depending on how the person is responding. So a lot of it in the beginning is really once you have that surgery is of course you want to get any kind of inflammation and swelling down. You want to try to start returning the amount of flexibility to the Achilles tendon and to that area. The other thing you're going to look for is what we call hypomobility, but what part of the body or the joint doesn't move like it needs to move.
Mm,
And think about it. Typically, when these guys are have surgery or injury, they're in a boot. They're in a boot for some
yeah.
weeks. If your foot is fixed in a position for so long, it's pretty sure it's going to be stiff. So a lot of it's going to be working on how do we increase the mobility of these joints to get that normal motion again and work on the flexibility. And then from there, you work on some of the simplest things. You work on the ability to be able to fully weight bear, being able to shift your weight, front to back, side to side, being able to, from that standpoint, your normal gait mechanics, because that's going to be huge. How can you run
Mhm.
if you don't have a normal gait pattern? So being able to work on ensuring not only that the foot and ankle are doing what they're supposed to do, what is the hip and the knee doing, what is the low back doing, the
Mm,
pelvis. So it's a lot of things that people don't realize just because an injury happens at one spot, it can impact the whole body. It can impact the whole body. A person being in a boot literally can throw their hips off and basically cause them to have low back pain. So you
mm,
have to take a look at a lot of areas as a physical therapist to ensure you're getting this person in the best position possible. You're getting all the joints moving like they should be moving, and you're working on the flexibility. And once you get to a certain point of the protocol, then you start incorporating what we consider open chain type activity. So closed chain is basically when your foot doesn't leave the surface. So, that person getting on a recumbent bike or a stationary bike will be their foot never leaves the surface, but it works on mobility, it works on blood flow, it
mm,
works on flexibility. But then open kinetic chain things will be like walking on the treadmill, then being able to, they have these treadmills called alter G's that basically
yeah.
your body is submerged in water. So you can basically grade the amount of load that you're putting on the area. And they're phenomenal. They're very expensive pieces of equipment, but they're phenomenal with rehabilitation, particularly for lower body injuries. So, it's really a true methodical process to get these individuals to where they need to be. And everybody's gonna respond different. So you kind of have to tailor their rehab based on them and what they're getting back to. And basketball player, the great thing is you have a lower injury, you still can work on some of the upper body strength and why they're rehabbing the lower body. So, and working on form and those pieces. Then you get back to full simulation when they get the go ahead and clearance by the doctor too. So
Mm. Yeah, man. Well, cuz look, I appreciate you coming on and explaining a lot of this to us. Uh, it was like I said, these things have happened a lot. Any other, I guess, advice for anybody out there, young athletes, parents of young athletes? Any advice for them? As far as keeping your health up and everything for preventing of injuries.
the biggest
I'm
thing I will
messing up.
say,
I'm messing up your job security. My bad, but go ahead.
no, nah, I mean that's part of our job too, is to help with prevent injuries. Physical therapists are typically looked at as reactive, where individuals come to us after an injury. Honestly, we,
Mhm.
we should be used in the same game as a doctor. You know how you have a PCP to continue to keep your health going.
Mhm.
Physical therapists should be utilized like that too. Sometimes we need those tune-ups. You might need to go in to basically get looked at and, have a manipulation done, or as some people look at it as adjustments, because that's what chiropractors do to the different parts of their
Yeah.
body and teach them on how to strengthen and train certain things to keep it from getting to a full-blown injury. So I think that's the biggest thing, really listening to your body, changing things up, not constantly doing the same type of exercises or load to the same area all the time. Being able to diversify your training is going to be huge. And then not only that too, the rest component is another piece. Being able. I laugh because people laugh about Christian McCaffrey when he talked about his dad used to make him not let him wear jeans, and he couldn't be on his feet certain on game days and certain things. But
Mhm.
I mean, some of those things probably helped get them to the NFL. So you just
Yeah.
really have to listen to your body. You have to address things when they start feeling not quite right, and utilize, the medical professionals out there to help you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's. I was gonna say it's funny because people kind of looked at him strange because he had calf strain last season, and he pulled himself out. I was like, yeah, I'm not doing it because I'm pretty sure that was that same situation. But like I said, because I definitely appreciate you coming on. We have to get you back on throughout the season, talk some of these things we see, and get you to break it down to us elementary style. Get your crayons and stuff.
I'll get them out, man. I appreciate you having me, man.
All right, thank you.
Thank
Ladies
you.
and gentlemen, that was Dr. Chris Pough breaking it down for us tonight. Definitely appreciate him with that. NBA draft. Told y'all we were gonna talk about it, at least try to. And we've got the first 3 picks in so far. No surprise, no surprise. Cooper Kupp was the number 1 pick. Then you had Dylan Harper going to the Spurs. And the Philadelphia 76ers took a guard as well. They took VJ Edgecombe out of Baylor. So you got your first 3. Right now you got the Charlotte Hornets on the clock. So we'll see who they pick up. But so far the draft is kind of played out, I guess, how we expected. Round 1 tonight, if I'm not mistaken. They're doing round 2 tomorrow. I think that's how they're going to do it. Something like that. But I ain't gonna hold y'all here long because I know a lot of y'all here are follow us over from the LSU side, and we got a celebration to get ready for. So again, want to thank my cousin for coming on with us. I will see Ant soon or talk to him soon. I think he should be all right for tomorrow. We do a HBCU hour, but in the meantime, let's go ready to get up out of here. Again, thank you everybody who tuned in. Thank you for Dr. Chris for coming through and now from these means. Make sure you subscribe, share, tell a friend.